Hey, fifth grade, this is Miss Harvey, and we are going to be doing writing class together. Today is Thursday, May 14th, and I'm going to tell you what you need to be prepared for this video before we get started. So, you'll need to have this video open, of course, and separate from the video, you'll need to have scratch paper and a writing utensil. The last thing you'll need to have open on a separate tab in your computer is today's writing packet, and I'm going to show you where to find that. If you open up our distance learning materials for fifth grade, you will open up this week, week 9. We are doing writing class, so you're going to open the folder that is labeled reading and writing. Today is Thursday, so you'll open up Thursday's work. It's very important that you have this open so that you'll be able to read the text and write your paragraph, because if you don't open the work, then you won't be able to read the text, so you won't be able to write about it. Please make sure that you are taking these steps to open up that packet before you email and ask where the text for today is. Again, the text for today's writing prompt is in today's writing packet, which is in your distance learning folders. So, today we're going to be working on making sure to include specific evidence or details that help to prove our point. So, we are going to go over some examples of what it looks like to use strong evidence, where your evidence directly proves the assertion or topic sentence that you have written about. For evidence, we of course need to make sure that they are backing up our point, because the more that we can prove our point, the stronger our ideas will be and the stronger our paragraphs will be. As we choose evidence, our job should be to choose the best evidence, meaning that it's not evidence that somewhat relates to what our point is, but it is the best evidence from the text that directly supports whatever our assertion is. So we are going to read 2 paragraphs that respond to the same prompt. And our job today is going to be to figure out which of these samples has stronger evidence and why. And then we're going to work on using what we learned today and incorporating it into our response for today's writing class. So, for these samples, the prompt that was written on was, what threats do mosquitoes pose to human health? So as you read through these 2 samples, I want you to jot down notes on their evidence. And when you're thinking about their evidence, I don't want you to just say it's good or it's bad. I want you to really think about it. What makes the evidence strong? Does it connect back to the assertion that they mentioned? Is it the best evidence that would prove their point? And you should be thinking about all those questions as you're jotting down notes on both samples. And then come back to the video when you're ready to discuss. Go ahead and pause here to do that now. Let's go ahead and read through the samples and talk a little bit about the evidence. Sample 1 says, a threat that mosquitoes pose to human health is a type of sickness or disease called malaria, which is spread by mosquitoes and is the reason there are many deaths. In the text it says, first a mosquito bites someone infected with malaria. A few days later, when the mosquito is ready for its next meal, it bites someone else. As the mosquito jabs the new victim's flesh, malaria germs, known as plasmodium, enter that person's blood. Humans get very sick because of malaria, which is caused by mosquitoes passing it around to a lot of people. Many survive malaria, many do not. In the text it says, malaria kills roughly 430,000 people a year. The majority of victims are children under age 5. Over the past decade, much progress has been made in preventing and treating malaria. But as for now, there is no cure or vaccine that works for everyone. A lot of people lose their lives due to mosquitoes passing on the disease malaria quickly, and it is a big threat to people's lives and health. So now I want you to go back to this sample and take a look at the evidence. And I want you to answer the following questions. Does this evidence selected directly prove the assertion that was provided? Is there evidence connected to the assertion, and is it the best evidence that could be used to prove their point? I went ahead and highlighted the assertion in orange and the evidence in yellow so that as we are having a conversation, we can refer back to it. So hold on to what you just said about sample 1 and let's read through sample 2. A threat that mosquitoes pose to human health is a type of sickness or disease called malaria, which is spread by mosquitoes and is the reason there are many deaths. The author talks about how they carry dangerous diseases. The author wrote, "Yet mosquitoes are far more than a nuisance. They are also the spreaders of dangerous diseases." The author is showing that the mosquitoes are spreading diseases, and the reader can infer it can be a health issue. The disease is also really deadly. The author wrote, "One of the most serious diseases spread by mosquitoes is malaria." The author shows how deadly it is. I want you to do the same thing with sample 2. Take a look back at the evidence provided and ask yourself those same questions and respond to them. Is the evidence provided proving the assertion? Is it directly connected to the assertion? And is it the best evidence to help prove the point? So I noticed that both samples have the same assertion. They're trying to prove that mosquitoes pose a threat to human health because they spread a disease called malaria. So now we need to determine which of these assertions is best proved, and the way that we'll do that is by taking a look at the evidence used. So based on what you shared and what you jot down on your paper, which sample has stronger evidence? The sample here with the best evidence to prove their point is sample 1. And the reason why is because sample 1 uses evidence that directly connects to the disease malaria and evidence that proves how much of a threat malaria is to human health. Let's take a closer look. In sample 1, they first start by describing how malaria is spread. They include information that shows that malaria is spread through mosquitoes and mosquito bites, which proves exactly how mosquitoes are threatening human health because they are what is spreading the malaria. By giving evidence and giving detail about how malaria is spread, it shows that mosquitoes can spread malaria very quickly and to a lot of different humans because by just biting somebody, they can spread the disease. Then the sample goes on to do just that and prove how many people die from malaria a year. This evidence helps to prove that mosquitoes have a huge threat to human health. And it proves that by telling us exactly how many people are dying each year from a disease that is spread through mosquitoes. And they say that even though there has been progress, there is not a cure or a vaccine. So that means that because there's no cure or vaccine, that we can't completely eliminate the threat of malaria, justifying again exactly how dangerous mosquitoes can be to humans because they can spread this disease, malaria, and the disease has no cure. So humans are constantly threatened by getting malaria from mosquitoes. In contrast, Sample 2 does not include the best evidence from the text. Sample 2 picked evidence that says things that were very obvious in the text, but doesn't actually give specific details to help prove their point. So their evidence is very general and broad. And what I mean by that is that it's not very specific. Let's take a look closer to see exactly what I mean. So they have the same assertion. Their first evidence says that mosquitoes are far more than a nuisance. They are also spreaders of dangerous diseases. Well, yes, but your assertion was specifically about malaria. This evidence does not even connect directly to malaria. It just says that mosquitoes broadly spread dangerous diseases. How does your reader know that you're talking about malaria and not other diseases that a mosquito could spread? There's no way for your reader to be super clear, and this evidence is just way too general. It's not the best evidence to prove your point. It doesn't even connect to malaria. Then they go on to say that one of the most serious diseases spread by mosquitoes is malaria. Again, okay, that's like a very matter-of-fact piece of evidence to provide, but you don't go into any detail about why it's so serious. You don't provide any evidence about how it affects humans, that it makes them sick, that it can potentially kill them. There's no specific evidence provided in Sample 2. They just pick the most general pieces of evidence they could find and put them in the paragraph, but they don't actually help to prove your point. Your point was to prove how much of a threat mosquitoes are to human health. But you didn't really prove that because even though you mentioned mosquitoes can spread serious diseases, you never mentioned the disease you were supposed to talk about from your assertion, malaria. And then when you did mention malaria, your evidence basically just repeated your assertion and said that mosquitoes spread malaria. Well, you had already stated that in your assertion. Your evidence should be something more specific, something that actually proves to your reader why mosquitoes are a threat, maybe something that shows how malaria is spread or how it affects the humans that contract it. Therefore, Sample 1 does a much better job at proving their point because their evidence is specific to their point, it directly connects to their assertion, and it helps to actually prove their point. As you read your text today, I want you to keep your prompt in mind. How does an excessive amount of screen time affect your health? And as you keep this prompt in mind, I want you to work on finding the best 3 pieces of evidence to include in your paragraphs. Doing this as you are reading will help to make sure that you're tracking and actually understanding the text, but it also cuts down on the amount of work you do. Because if you find the evidence while you read, you don't have to go back and reread it to find more evidence. So today, I want you focused on finding 3 strong pieces of evidence that connect directly to your assertion and help to prove it true. And your evidence should be specific and it should give specific details about your assertion. After you are done reading the text and finding your evidence, you are writing 1 strong paragraph responding to the passage. And your paragraph should be written in the exit ticket quiz. Remember that a paragraph is longer than 1 sentence. In fact, a paragraph should be no shorter than 5 sentences. Your paragraphs should have a topic sentence, 3 pieces of evidence, and analysis. Today, push yourselves to incorporate what we learned about evidence in your writing and push yourselves to make sure that the writing you submit shows your best effort. Since we are writing just one paragraph, your teachers are expecting what you create to be your best work and to really show that you are continuing to work hard and put your best foot forward. The code for today's exit ticket quiz is RESPECT, RESPECT. Go ahead and get started on your exit ticket quiz by reading the text and finding the evidence that you're going to use in your paragraph. And then make sure to write your paragraph and submit it by today's deadline.